You're watching PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hey everybody, welcome to PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Dan Mannarino. It is Wednesday, January 7th. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Just a programming note, don't forget, I'm sitting down for an exclusive interview with Governor Kathy Hochul tomorrow, and I want to continue to hear from your questions from you at home. A lot of you have been sending in your thoughts on affordability and what you'd like to see happen this year, and I want to continue to bring your questions directly to the governor. So that interview happening tomorrow to air on PIX on Politics. So continue to send me your questions. In the meantime, we were talking yesterday. I don't know if you were paying close attention to what we were talking about, but we were talking about the city council, some special races, as well as races in Congress, right? I had just sat down with Congressman Dan Goldman, who is saying that he was going to run for re-election against now a challenger in Brad Lander. And there's kind of a lot of talk around what's happening in Congress and what it's going to look like when it comes to the midterms, right? And there's this fight happening right now in the 11th Congressional District. It's the center of a court case right now, which includes Staten Island, parts of South Brooklyn. Democrats, including Governor Kathy Hochul, are hoping to kind of redraw the lines. Now, you've heard a lot about this, right? The gerrymandering and the redrawing on lines, not just by Democrats, but by Republicans as well. Both sides have done this in recent years. You heard about it in states like Texas, right, for example. So this has now gone to the courts and whether or not this specific district could be redrawn. And that would be Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis' district. And she's joining me now to talk more about this and other topics. So great to see you. Welcome to the show. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So obviously, Congresswoman, this is such a talk of the town on both sides of the aisle, right? Because both sides have done this. And so when you look at it, how do you feel about the idea of redrawing lines?
Look, I've been consistent for years, and I've condemned political gerrymandering, whether it's the Republicans doing it or the Democrats are doing it. And certainly, mid-decade redrawing of the maps is particularly problematic. And in my case, what's happening here is there's a lawsuit by a high-powered Democrat firm that has come in to claim that the district that I represent, 11th District, which encompasses Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn, somehow disenfranchises minorities. Yet I'm the first Hispanic woman to be elected to represent this particular community. Now, the interesting thing is this district was represented by a Democrat. That Democrat was fired and replaced with me because people in the district were unsatisfied with the representation. And so they had a say in this election. They spoke very clearly. But here comes this firm saying that they want to take away the will of the people, that they want to be able to pick who is in this district, which is, by the way, is the most competitive district in the city. It's the only competitive district in the city. And they want to tilt the scale to make it a Democrat district so a Republican cannot get elected in the city of New York ever again. And the solution, the remedy that they're proposing is to put Staten Island with Lower Manhattan, not to add more minorities, but to add more white liberals so they can get the desired political outcome in this year's election. And so it is such a frivolous lawsuit. It should have been tossed out. We're in court this week. We're fighting it, and we intend to win, just as we won in the last two rounds of this battle. Every time I run for election, it seems that we're having a court battle over the district lines, but we will prevail, I believe, in the end of the day.
Yeah, and you make a really good point about Lower Manhattan too, because if it was, say, to go in the favor of the against you and in the favor of the Democrats, there would be kind of a whole other battle that plays out. Somebody like Dan Goldman or Brad Lander would then be running against you in the 11th district, because that would be kind of where the redrawing happens. But I'm just curious, in the conversation, and I hear you very loud and clear when you say you were against it. So what do you say to somebody like President Trump, who was urging states like Texas and other states as well to redraw lines to make sure that Republicans hold on to the House? Was he wrong to do that?
I've said that from the beginning, that it was wrong.
Yeah.
When it was happening, I said that this was wrong. And I didn't think that this was something that should be done mid-district, or it should be done to achieve a political outcome. Look, we have enough to run on, Republicans, to win the election based on merit in the work we've done. We've just delivered the largest tax cut to working families, to middle-class Americans, to senior citizens. SALT deduction restored here in New York for families under $500,000. And we also have senior citizens, 88% of them, that are going to get the money that they pay in Social Security tax back when they do their refunds. We've secured the border. We've deported criminals. We don't have that migrant gang crisis that we had in New York City last year. Gas prices are down, interest rates are down, inflation is down, mortgage rates are down. We have a lot to run on, and we don't need to be doing this, and we shouldn't be doing it. So I've said it was wrong from the very beginning. Yeah. What's interesting about my district here is that it was drawn by an independent special master, because remember, they tried to egregiously gerrymander me in 2022. And that we won when we sued, and a special master drew these maps. Then 2024, the Democrats tried this again. They actually won in court. But what Kathy Hochul and the Democrats did was basically not change too much. In my district remained the same. So the governor and the legislative leaders in New York signed off on this map. And here comes this Washington law firm to somehow say that they are disenfranchising minorities. And the governor should be standing by these maps. She signed them into law. So that's a good question. I heard you asking for questions to ask her when she's on. You should ask her about that, because she signed them into law. Would she sign a map that she thought disenfranchised minorities? Not to mention that the law that they're suing under, it's a law that doesn't even apply to state or congressional legislative seats. So it's a completely ridiculous lawsuit. But I believe we will win at the end of the day, because it is such a ridiculous lawsuit. And the people of Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn, they deserve to elect who they want, not have some firm come in and play this game to. And it goes for anywhere, whether that's here, whether it's in Texas, whether it's in California. Politically, gerrymandering is wrong.
I hear you, and I think the discussion really is further for it happened already in some Republican areas, right? So I think Democrats are saying, well, if they did it, why can't we do it? And since it's already happened in a state like Texas, do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Texas didn't start this fight. This has been going on for decades. I mean, in New York, they did it in 2022. We have states where there's zero Republican representation in Washington, yet Donald Trump got, let's say, 30 or 40% of the vote. How do they have zero Republican representation in Washington? Okay. So again, it's wrong regardless of who does it. We certainly did not start this fight. This has been a battle going on for years, if not decades. And really, I think the answer at the end of the day is we should be using perhaps AI generated maps that seek to make these seats the most competitive possible, right? I'm happy with my competitive seat, and I took it from a Democrat because I was right on merit and I won the debate. But you have all these Democrats in New York City who they can never be defeated or replaced. And that's wrong. If we make these districts more competitive, guess what? People are more accountable to the voters. And it's the voters who actually choose their elected official. It's not just an automatic slam dunk for re-election. What we have now in New York City, sadly, is a incumbent protection program for the Democrats. That's the way these elections have turned out. And now you have one competitive seat, which is Staten Island, Southern Brooklyn, which I represent. Again, I defeated a Democrat to get this seat. It's not a Republican-leaning seat. It is actually, voter registration-wise, 40% Democrat, 27% Republican and conservative. The remaining are third parties, mostly independents. And yet I won because the people elected me, not because somebody came in and rigged the lines to my advantage.
What you're saying with some of the Democratic strongholds that will never change over, that's heavily Democratic leaning in terms of voters. And I hear what you're saying about registration, but a lot of Republicans do live in the Staten Island area and Brooklyn and Queens. So it really depends on where people live.
Yeah, but there's certainly seats you can make in Queens, probably more competitive. And certainly in other parts of Brooklyn, you can make competitive. Maybe even in the Bronx, you can make a competitive seat. We have no competitive seats except for my district. And now the Democrats want to come in and change it even further, despite the fact that they already have a significant registration advantage in this congressional district that I represent.
Keep us posted on the lawsuit. Okay, I want to follow that very closely, but I want to get you, while we have you, if you have time, on a few other of the newsworthy topics. One of them being, of course, what's happening in real time. The capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has some people saying that Congress should have been notified of the president's actions. Was it the right move for the president to go ahead and do what he did, or should he have spoken to Congress about it beforehand? What's your take?
Well, We did receive a classified briefing a few days prior. He obviously did not talk about these plans. And I think, number one, it was a law enforcement action. Yes, it involved the military because it was a head of state, but this is somebody who was, number one, illegitimate leader. Democrats and Republicans agree. They don't dispute that. Even Democrats had a $25 million bounty for him because he was a fugitive of the United States charged with drug trafficking and other crimes. Look, these are crimes that are responsible for tens of thousands of deaths of Americans. And we have a responsibility to bring this person to justice. So I support the action that was taken. It was done flawlessly, by the way. We lost no military, we lost no equipment, and it was done with precision. But if the president had told anyone prior to this, or his administration told anyone prior to this, it would have really put the individuals who conducted this operation at grave risk. And so I don't think what he did was inappropriate. In fact, there was precedent for this with Noriega in Panama in 1990 under George H.W. Bush. And by the way, some of the arguments that I'm hearing from the other side, which is, by the way, are also arguments being made by Russia and China and Iran about how this was conducted, they were denied in court. And Noriega ended up being convicted and went on to serve many years in prison. So I support what happened here because it is for the security and safety of the Americans. Not to mention, you got to remember, it's the drug cartels that he's empowered that have poisoned Americans, but it's also the way that they work with Iran, Russia, China, our adversaries. They directly not only empowered cartels and these criminal gangs, but they also provide a base for operations for our adversaries. They've supported Hezbollah significantly and Iran. And so it is very important. Yeah. Very important. We're talking about a country that's 3 hours away from us.
I hear you.
That could be very disastrous.
I think a lot of people are looking at it saying, was this for something beyond the cartels? Was it for, say, oil?
So I think it was about the drug cartels and stopping these drugs from being trafficked into the United States. Now, with regards to oil, we have American companies who for decades had operated in Venezuela, and this regime came in and stole their assets. So the president simply saying, this was American assets and infrastructure that was taken over by this dictatorship that we are going to get our money back. But I also think that he's looking to help get the Venezuela freedom, the people, so they can have a prosperous economy and push towards free and fair elections so they can elect somebody of their choice and determine their future. You gotta wonder why 8 million Venezuelans fled this country, right? That's almost nearly the entire population of the city of New York fled because of this dictatorship. And so we hope to give them an opportunity for freedom once again. And this was the very first step of doing that.
It is a new year, so we obviously have a new mayor. I know you've been very outspoken about Mr. Mamdani and some of his policies and socialism overall. I'm curious what your thoughts were on the back end of that meeting that the then mayor-elect had with President Trump, right? Many people were calling it a bromance that kind of came out of the meeting, saying that no one expected the president to maybe see eye to eye with the mayor, Mamdani, at that time. Were you surprised by that meeting?
I was surprised that it was as cozy as it was. I think, look, it's so important that the city government and the federal government have an open dialogue and they try their best to work together. I've worked with Democrats from the city to do things, deliver money for the NYPD, to deliver resources for sewer infrastructure and for our schools and hospitals, because it is critical that we work together for the betterment of our community. Now, I don't know how long this honeymoon is going to last. I think it's going to be over real soon. But if they can find some common ground and cooperation, it is important. President Trump loves New York City. Look, he has family there. He has assets and property there. He has businesses there. He's a lifelong New Yorker. He truly loves our city and the NYPD and the FDNY and everybody who serves this great city. So I think he will do what's in the best interest of our city. Unlike maybe if there was a Republican president from some other state that was trying to hurt a blue state. I've worked with President Trump, for example, to get $100 million back for our counterterrorism unit at the NYPD when the Department of Homeland Security tried to change the formula to punish New York. Right away, he went and changed it back. He overrode them. That is the type of president that we need access to. And if Mamdani can have that relationship, that's great. But as the only Republican representing our city, I'm going to certainly do what I can to protect New York, but also make sure that we're holding this mayor accountable when he tries to implement some of these radical, reckless agenda items that he's been saying over the course of the campaign.
Yeah, and you and I have spoken many times about how you would, regardless of who is the president, that you would fight for what you believe is right in New York, and especially if something like the president has said many times, is he would withhold federal dollars if he didn't like what was happening, right? So just yesterday, he added New York to this list of withholding $10 billion for childcare, social services. Governor Hochul came out right away saying that she was going to fight him on this. Was it the right move to kind of hold back that $10 billion?
Well, there are serious questions about corruption and how that money is being used fraudulently and abusively and perhaps criminally. So let them conduct their investigation. I think putting on pause, considering what happened in Minnesota, is the right thing to do at this moment. We need to make sure that taxpayer money is going to its intended purpose. But something like the counterterrorism money for the NYPD, that was a no-brainer. There was no reason for that money to be held from the number one target in the United States of America. Is there evidence of
fraud here? Is there evidence of fraud here in New York?
They believe they have some evidence of fraud. I mean, I think that's, look, we read about fraud in New York all the time, particularly when it comes to SNAP, when it comes to Medicaid. Even our Attorney General, Controller, the Governor has talked about how much abuse and fraud there is in the Medicaid system, which was why it was surprising when they reacted the way they did when Republicans in Washington made some efforts to rein in that type of fraud, waste, and abuse. This is look, what's happening in Minnesota, it's just not happening there. Yeah. It's happening in other places. We're trying to get to the bottom of that, and a momentary withholding of these funds to ensure that's not getting in the wrong hands, I think is appropriate to protect the taxpayers.
And lastly, while we're talking about affordability and what really is hurting people's wallets, you mentioned a lot of the things that Republicans were able to do, but also it is January 1st and people are really worried about their health care costs and premiums going up because of the Affordable Care Act expiring. Is there relief? Are you looking at ways to provide relief for people's health care premiums that you just simply cannot afford?
So the Affordable Care Act did not expire. It were the tax subsidies that were going to these insurance companies. Okay. The problem was this was a COVID era credit to help kind of during the COVID times. Obviously, there was a lot of uncertainty. Now, the Democrats set that expiration date for December of 2025. That's number one. Number two, the issue that we found is that the insurance companies had pocketed that money. Their profits had increased 230%. The premiums had gone up 95%, and they were denying 1/3 of the claims. So we want accountability measures. I proposed a bipartisan solution here with 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, that we're saying let's continue to provide those credits for 2 years, but let's put in accountability measures to hold these insurance companies accountable so they can't be enrolling. Their brokers were enrolling like ghost people that didn't even exist. They were using one social security number to enroll hundreds of people. That can't happen. We have to protect the patient, protect the taxpayer, and rein in these insurance companies and their brokers. Our legislation does that. I'm hopeful that that's the final piece of legislation that will fix this mess. Right now, we're going through that process, and we'll see how it plays out this month. But I think my bill doesn't allow for the expiration, doesn't allow for just a clean extension. It actually does what we need it to do.
Right, but can it pass, right? Can it pass to bring down those costs?
It certainly can pass. I think what can't pass is a clean extension. That's going to pass probably out of the House this week because of that discharge petition, but it already failed in the Senate. So the Senate's going to have to come back with something. Yeah. And I believe that our compromise bill that had half Republicans, half Democrats is the solution that could actually pass. It's not going to satisfy the far right. It's not going to satisfy the far left, but I believe it will get the majority of the people in the middle. And at the end of the day, when Republicans and Democrats come together, maybe that's actually the best solution, right? Something that's in the middle, something that is a compromise. And I don't think we should be afraid of being bipartisan here in Washington. I think that that's where you end up getting good policy, which is another reason why we need competitive districts, so people are held accountable.
Yeah, I mean, bipartisanship, that's a word I feel like has kind of gone out the window lately. And I know I said that was the last topic, but I do want to get your thoughts real quick on the race for governor while I have you, because there was going to be a primary, Bruce Blakeman versus Elise Stefanik, and obviously that all changed. What were your thoughts on what kind of played out with Elise Stefanik not only dropping out of the race, but also not running for her seat again in Congress?
Look, I think these decisions are very personal. And if you don't have it in your gut to want to run for an office, you shouldn't, because you won't be good at what you do. And so Elise made the right decision for herself and her family. I know she has a young family, and she probably wants to spend more time with them. And I think that Bruce Blakeman, by the way, is somebody who has delivered, by the way, low taxes. There's not been a property tax increase in Nassau County since he's been there. U.S. News and World Report named Nassau County the safest county in America. He is somebody who can turn the tide here if people want public safety. They want to keep mortgage costs and rents and property taxes low. I think that he is somebody who can really fix somewhat of a mess that we have here in New York and make it more balanced. Again, we have one party rule in New York, and I don't think that's good. Yeah. I think we do need a balance, and we'll have better government and better policies if there has to be some compromise between the two parties.
All right, we covered a lot of ground. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, great to talk to you as always. Come on back soon, okay?
Thank you.
All right. And don't forget, you just heard the Congresswoman gave me a question for Governor Hochul. I want to hear from you as well. We're sitting down with her tomorrow. So send me your questions and I will bring them directly to the governor. In the meantime, have a great day, everybody.